Hello, everybody. We'll start in a few seconds from now on. Thank you. All right, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, SolidCAM community, and welcome to this very important webinar. This is Danijel speaking, and my goal of today's webinar is to show you all why SolidCAM 2025 release is the best SolidCAM release so far. And also, I want to show you today all the features that it has and how you can actually benefit from. I'd also like to take this opportunity to tell you all to download this version, use this version, and I'm sure you will benefit from. Now, of course, this webinar is being recorded as any other previously, and I wanted to prepare a special presentation this time. As you probably know, some of you probably watch our webinar also before about 2025, but I wanted to make it a little bit different, a little bit special. You've probably seen the main features that we covered in SP0 and SP1 version, and this presentation will be unique in such a matter that it will also include the changes we did in SP2, SP3, and SP5, especially, SP3 and SP4. And later, after this webinar, we are going to send you, all of you, the most updated PowerPoint presentation that include all features that I will also not show. There are a couple of them that I will not show, like, for example, the changes that we have in the post-processor, which I consider it that is irrelevant for this webinar. With that being said, let me show you the hand-picked features that I picked for this webinar that I considered that it highlights the 2025 release. And I'll start from something in general. And that is no doubt the best that I like, that I use on daily basis, is having ability to define the cylinder stock in multiple directions. Now we have an option today, of course, to define the cylinder stock, but this is now expanded to a feature that is beyond some level, that now you're completely able to define it in any axis direction. In previous earlier versions, we were able to define the same, but with the limits only around z-axis. Today, you can do it along any axis, along any vector. You can also create dedicated mech coordinate system and choose that one to be relevant for the stock definition. Another that I like to highlight here, if you can see also my mouse, is that we also have calculation of minimal stock diameter, and from there you can define and choose the one that is relevant for you. Next one is the updated stock in the pocket recognition. So over here, we do have now taken into account the updated stock, also take into account the target fixture. So you can choose these two modes over here. Now you have it. And as you can see, there is an option when creating a geometry that updated stock is going to take into account. With that being said, also the extended geometries over here, it will be also taken into account the updated stock. Great features here. Now, something that I cannot imagine using, for example, 2024 version, is because of this greatest change that we have is we call it quick tool selection, that now you don't need to go into a toolkit to pick up the tool. Now, we had the similar feature also in the past, where you can, for the machine preview, you can do a right click on specific turret or the tool, and we can go and look at the magazine and provide you 10 latest used tools. But not only, we are going also to filter that tool type if it fits to this current job. Now, as you can see now in the area here in every tool change page, you can see here a drop-down menu that we are going to give you all the list of all available tools for this job. Very nice. If you have multiple turrets, we are going to group them by the multiple turrets. Very, very beneficial. Saves a couple of clicks. Also loading the toolkit. No matter how great the toolkit is, the libraries may be very heavy. So if you have thousands of tools, it is not necessary to load all the tools. You can just go here in this drop-down menu and just pick the one that you need for this job. Saves a lot of clicks and a lot of time. Another, it's in 2.5D drilling. When you pick up all the drilling geometries, now you have an ability to select a boundary, which you can include or exclude or just ignore this boundary. It's really up to you, but it's it gives you more flexibility in geometry selection. Another small feature, but I really like it. There is cases like applications, part applications that you can, where you are doing the wrap, the geometry, the C-axis goes sometimes maybe beyond some limits, because we are always returning it with the shortest path. So that makes the angular accumulation, and now you have an option to rewind, completely into to the same path as it was. So you get you're getting a benefit that you will not reach actually this limit using a 2.5D technology when you use the 4th axis strategies. Let's go further. You've probably seen, many of you, whenever you're now defining a new project, now you've seen this checkbox here, the part mode. So many of you are just wondering what this checkbox actually is and what it does and what is the main benefit of using it. Now, the first benefit is actually for the users of the SolidCAM Embedded, that now allows you to not only use internal mode, because that was like only possible to use internal, but that created a limit of reaching like 2 GB of the project, and then you are kind of locked. You can't go further. And in such a case, we created this external mode where we are going to define the PRZ, but it will not be defined. The whole project will not be defined like in assembly mode, but it will be defined like in a part mode. This is great, especially you're not having the same limit as we said earlier, but also allows you exchange within the SolidCAM Embedded with parts only within SolidCAM regular versions of SolidCAM. Yes. I would like also to encourage you to, in any moment, write us questions, and I'll make sure that at the end of this webinar we leave some time, also to answer questions that you have along. All right, the next one, I like this very, very much. Is I like that in every version we do have some new things in templates, definitions. So many times it probably happened to you that you already almost finished the part programming using your templates, and maybe you wanted actually to update your template with some detail that you missed probably, but now you need to start it again, the whole project. No, actually now with any modifications of your template, we give you a nice option to update all these links towards the template. We will update existing jobs that are already programmed, and you can synchronize them and calculate. Great. Another thing, if you are a SolidCAM user, you do have your 3-axis, 5-axis mill, maybe you are single or multi-channel mill turn, but also you do have Swiss type machines. You can immediately start using this feature. All your machines probably have different settings for clearances. Obviously, smaller mills are not the same as larger mills. Also, the mill turn multi-channel doesn't have the same clearances, and obviously not the Swiss type. So if you are in this league and you want to customize your clearances per machine, you may modify these settings inside your VMID per each machine, and go to the SolidCAM settings and ensure that this checkbox is off. Because if it's opposite. So ensure that you use this checkbox. You have the checkbox that is by default off, but you can check it and use actually the settings that it will pull from the machine itself. A couple of changes in Toolkit. The first of all, I want to send a message that we are always going to improve our wizard, importing the tool from the CAD. We have, I think we are very now solid with importing the milling tools and turning tools, but also fixtures. Pay attention that we also do have fixtures. But the greatest things that we did in this version is that we now finally have an option that for each individual component, we can now reference to specific coordinate system. That gave us a benefit that each of the components actually can be then later reused within other assemblies. For each individual component, you can also change the resolution. That's extremely important if you want to work with the optimization of your 3D models. It is just not enough that you take the general resolution settings, because for some holders and cutters, that would not be enough. Or let's imagine that you are actually using the resolution that is for the cutters, that you want to use it with very fine resolution, which is absolutely not important in very complex holders and shanks, which will result to bigger file size and unimportant graphic, how should I say, stress to your system. So yes, now you can change also the resolution. Amazing option that within each of these coordinate systems, now we can actually automatically define the joint shifts. So there is no needs for the to make any mountings. It will be set to 0, so it will go to the joint itself. And yeah, we will still, with each version you will see in the future, we will continue improving this more and more. Let's go further. Nice option to duplicate if you want to copy your assembly, sub-assembly to another joint. Sometimes it's time consuming, especially if I want to copy like specific collet, or if I want the subholder. And I do have like 5 stations or 3 stations there. Just use duplicate. It's so convenient. Right. Many times it happened to me that I want to change the path where my STLs are located, or maybe I just missed the one. So looking where this real link to this STL is, it might be sometimes a challenge. Therefore, we create this option auto-locate, and we are going to look on your system, and we will suggest you where this STL actually is. So you don't need to browse it. You just search it by the name, or maybe you modify just the name. So you can just change the name that you're looking for. Maybe just, just a number, component number, and just search it, select it, and use it. What this symbol actually shows you that there is no STL. So you may still use this component. It will include all the holder properties, but there's no STL data. So it's kind of dangerous sometimes. All right, next, finally, we can also support the convex tip mill in all technologies, 3 to 5 axis toolpaths, HSS, Pro 3D, HSR, and HSM, and 3+2 milling. What's the benefit for it? Of course, before that, you were forced actually to use the bull nose, but in that case, you actually created unrealistic updated stock. So now with this, in the right, you can see over here that because you are using the correct tool for it, your exact stock will be there, so you can take that into account to ensure the next job will take and handle this piece of stock properly. We also was very frequently asked from you in some of our reseller meetings before. We got this raised many times. Let's add the chamfer to our end mills. You were able to define the chamfer mills also in the past for sure, but now we just put this dedicated parameter into end mill page. And now you can place it there so you can actually see remaining materials, which is extremely important that you need to finish it. Also later on, it will be shown also in the simulation, so you have it there. For the fixtures, you probably know that now you can in 3D environment, if you're not actually defining it as an assembly of SolidWorks Inventor, that you can pull the fixture library right from the toolkit. But in the case when you are doing that, you actually don't see any fixtures. So now you have here an ability over here in the corner of any job in SolidCAM. You actually have an option to see a fixture. And this fixture is not only like just for a preview, but you can actually use it in any of the levels and grab any data that you want for the levels. How cool that is. One detail here, because this is STL, this is not associative. So pay attention that you will, click on these geometries, but this field over here, it will not become green. It will not be associative. I mean, it's reasonable, of course. All right, and this is like something that I like very much. Like you can within any tool, and on the left I have an example where I fill in all the data about my cutting conditions, and I can now take it, copy, and just paste it on any other cutting condition. Pardon, any other cutter. And it doesn't have to be one; it can be multiple ones. Just copy, paste, and everything gets inside. Perfect. Finally, as we do have it for the probably for the milling tools, where we can define the outside holder length, you may ask yourself, how we can define, the same outside holder or stick out on the turning tools. So we never had that. You were actually doing that everything like manually measuring it now. So we wanted to get rid of this. And on the level of the holder, we gave you an ability to create a stick out point. So by default, if you don't define anything, it will be based on where your joint is. But you have a very nice option that you can define which point for you is relevant on the holder that you can later use to, use the stick out of, define the stick out length from this point. Another option that you can load your toolkit settings. You probably have it happened to you many times that you had SolidCAM 2022, you installed in 2024, but you need to adjust all your toolkit settings and maybe move the database, maybe copy, so you lost yourself a little bit. So this option allows you to very fast, within one single click, define actually one place where you're storing all your data, and just use this toolkit settings that it will load that specific path. All your settings will be pulled, also all manufacturing names, toolpath colors, so all the settings that you have over here, it will be loaded from that version. Perfect. Outside holder length, amazing feature. So finally, now you can predefine this feature on any tools, okay, and defining on the level of volt. And now you just take, drag and drop to the holder outside the tool. It's set up exactly to this outside holder length. Perfect. Let's go next. Facet model editor. Okay, so probably many of you already know this feature. You can do it on right click on the over the CAM part. But we have integrated this Facet model editor, this STL editor of SolidCAM, into a toolkit. I mean, it's because of obvious reason, right? So you can manipulate with the STL data. You can connect to STLs. You can separate them. You can move them here and there, right? So this is the all great benefits for it. But what I like it's you can now use it standalone. So any toolkit can be used standalone. You can activate this editor, like from the drop-down menu or on the specific STL, and it will be automatically loaded. So you can manipulate here and use this feature. Another thing, I think this is one of the biggest change that we did, in Toolkit. Of course, the tool types and stuff, but for me, I really care about how fast I can find the holder or any component inside the toolkit when I have a huge library. So when you have a very huge, heavy library, your filtering needs to be very nice. So one of the first filtering is actually a name itself. Many of you actually just start to type. The very first versions of Toolkit didn't have an option to just type something and it will pop up this, all that includes, but you actually had to write exact the name of the whole component. This was really impractical. So now we introduced the substring search, and exact text matching, it's no longer required. So you have also the checkbox, match case, not match case, and just write, here I just write the PF31, what that is, doesn't matter. But it will give me all results that include this string search. Of course, also the XML import interface. Now we do have the universal SolidCAM XML structure, so it allows us to import any third party, also support any parametric 2D shapes, STL, also STL cutters, universal format. I like it. It can also have the, as you can see here, an example, the multi-cutters. It can include also a property for the feeds and speed. Perfect. You probably heard in 2025, we introduced the VAR EDM. I think this is one of the greatest models that we introduced in 2025. I will not talk in very explicit details. We already had the webinar about it. I will just mention here that we support 4 jobs, basically. When you have here a profile, simple profile, it's 2-axis job. Then when you have an angle, so you pick up the profile and you define a constant angle, or you can do also variable angle. And then we have a 4th axis with the wireframe and solid. And there's also an option of macro. It's obviously, if you are a SolidCAM customer, you do have your VAR EDM machine. You're not leaving your Ferry CAD and you're not leaving your Ferry CAM with this model. Now, a couple of things in SolidCAM Simulator. We are never stopping developing this one. What we provide here is a new feature for automatic stock splitting, very important in mill turn and also milling, depending on what kind of stock you do have and what kind of application you are now doing. So you have an option, which I believe by default it's on, that you can, when you're doing the cutoff, so pay attention to this picture here, this is not, this was actually the results if you were actually not using it. And the next job you have like a outside or maybe just face turning on the sub spindle, the results was like this. And of course, if you turn that on, that remaining stock will be automatically removed, and actually the proper simulation will be done. And that it's not only supported in milling and turning, but obviously also on VAR EDM. So that's also supported there. There are also additional 2 modes, very nice for in VAR EDM analysis. So you can see here when we have like the wireframe here, and we also have now wireframe precision. And the greatest difference that you can see is actually in the holes. But holes here was just a simple wireframe here, but now over here, when you make a precision, then we'll have a much more lines, give you much more clue what it's all about. Right, and for the first time, you probably maybe seen it, that it does exist, but it is still under the beta, but I think it's worth much showing it, especially for all of you for the milling applications, that we start supporting kinematic simulation, like a bundle to our SolidCAM simulator, that now you can load all your machine. There's a 0 efforts that you need to do. There's no post adjustments, nothing. If you had already your machine simulation files, it is just natively added, and you just can start using it. If you don't see this option, you can find it under the beta settings in SolidCAM settings. It is so good, and we are continue improving it. The currently limit, why we still call it a beta, is because we still support only the milling operations and also no MCO support, but stay tuned, they're coming. Also, I want to give you a small sneak peek because this is so important and everybody are just asking for it. What is happening with the GPU mode in simulator when we can get it? Coming in 2026 SP0, we will have the GPU mode inside SolidCAM Simulator, but not only, also in SolidCAM Simulator. All right. Changes in turning. We've done so many things in the turning. So in the Swiss type, mainly, this was mainly in Swiss type, but also in the mill turn as well. Requested. We also we had already like multi-depth drilling for milling, but why we didn't apply the same technology over the turning? So here you go. So for each level, you can define different feeds, spins, spin direction, also a coolant. You can affect whether or not to turn it on or off, and what will be also as well. We also, in thread whirling, we start supporting variable pitch. In the previous versions, we supported whirling natively. That was like, it is definitely irreplaceable method in Swiss type. But in 2025, with variable pitch, we actually close this job. Now we can support both. There are two different thread control. Is it like an instant change of the pitch, or it's gradual change of the pitch? So nice, so needful, perfect. Dynamic turning, advanced machining technique, increasing efficiency, flexibility. Of course, you are tilting your tool. That's why it is so beneficial. It doesn't. Here you can see the example of done in the XZ plane, right? But over here, I can also show you that we can support it also in YZ plane, right? So it dynamically change the feed, also the angle. It supports the roughing and finishing process. It has automatic collision avoidance between the tool, part, and fixtures. Great. But what are also the changes that we add explicitly in 2025 SP4 release is that we added X negative output. So the toolpad over here, as you can see, doesn't have to be only in the positive X, but due to orientation of the tool, you can also use the output of X negative. Another thing is that we turned off tool orientation inside the job itself. There is no need that you predefine the tool orientation on the job level, but it will be automatically taken based on the toolkit settings. So you have the measure orientation inside the toolkit for that particular cutter on the cutting point. And you can define your B-axis position that will be a starting orientation in that job. So it takes automatically that into account. And there's additional parameter that is added, like a tool angle precision. Also, this is the last 3 slides. I'm saying it's in SP4 exclusively. The tool angle precision, it is default range from 0.01 to 1. Of course, it controls what is the angle precision. Smaller the value, more precise it will be, especially in the corners when you're tilting when you're using the tilt. Very necessary. But of course, with lower value, the calculation time it will take a place. Nothing so dramatically, but you will see that it's 2 times slower or something. Yeah, so something to take into account as well. For the Swiss type, you probably know that we do have, in the cases when you have no option on the Swiss type machine, that you need to go inside the guide bush and lose the support of the guide bush. So your bar is losing the support of the guide bush. It will jump here and there, and there are high possibilities that you are going to crash your guide bush if you don't break the corner. Now, so we added this feature some time ago, but we give him a great update. We created actually two strategies. We added one new parameter that we call an extension. We changed the default values, and also what are these two strategies? So one is when the tool goes like from this position and just continue and making this geometry over here, and then it goes out. This depends actually on your stock material. Based on this, you are going to choose whether you will define no extension, or you have like this strategy when he goes up and just make this, let's say, lead angle on the stock. Very beneficial. And also there's very nice option when it's extended. He will also ensure that there's no material gap here on this corner, this edge, which will also affect to every micro stock over here. It may damage the guide bush as well. So both strategies are really nice and supported now. Additional to this, it's not mentioned in the PowerPoint presentation, but this now break material corner stock, it's supported not only finishing but also roughing and finishing. Additionally, small detail done in SP3, I think it's worth mentioning, is that now we can, especially when you are when you're doing machining on a main or a sub spindle, you need to care about your approach point. Not anymore. In 2025, even also SP3, we automatically give you the safest approach point. Is it that left or right? It will come automatically. You need, of course, to care about the setup. So if you create unrealistic setup, of course, we will choose the wrong one that is not correct. But if you select the right setup, you define everything properly, you will get this absolutely correct. Great improvements. Okay, very proud to say in this. We have put a lot of effort in expanding a feature that we called turning in position. Turning in position is a feature, let me just give a small introduction to all of you who are hearing this for the first time. Probably know that by far you are able to define all your turning jobs in Mark 1 or Mark 2, and then you are actually limited to what spindle you are doing. In the case you have a U-axis machine, or you have interpolation turning on a cycle in your machine, you would like to define your turning toolpaths on a different, let's say, positions. And in that case, we created a feature that we call turning in position. It's more or less like a milling coordinate systems, but this time you're just defining it for turning, and allows you to define per each of these, let's say, cylindrical target areas to define a jobs over it. So we will do support updated stock, updated toolpath. It will be a correct tool orientation. So you can define the fixture. So the fixture envelope will be regenerated per each position. Great. Now this is still under a beta, okay? But you can start machining your pod. So the reason why it is still in beta, because we can only have it now currently for the SolidCAM simulation only. There is no machine simulation, all right? And currently we do support only the U-axis that are integrated one, not with the changeable heads, but integrated U-axis. This is programming with a flexible coordinate system only. And over here, you can see the results, how it looks in SolidCAM Simulator. But also here, one very nice feature that we implemented inside the coordinate system itself, where you can define turning region of interest. As you probably know, in regular mill turn applications, we actually create an envelope on specific Mac, right? But these parts are pretty big and heavy. And eventually over here, you can actually, you would like to machine only in this area that you can see here. Why I need to, rotate the whole part, wait for a couple of minutes to generate an envelope when we can actually do that from turning region of interest, right? You can just define the cylinder of interest and enjoy. We are going to update, give you the envelope of updated stock, also the target, and all geometry that you select, it must be inside this envelope. If you're interested to hear more, feel free to contact our support. We will provide you all the data needed. Amazing improvements in probe. 2025 SP4, we added a support for probe cycles on the linear and rotary turrets. In other words, we give us support in mill turn and Swiss type. Very needed, very necessary. And we also added support of multi-stylus probe definition. We are still working on it. Currently, it's limited to one stylus per job, so you cannot select multiple point or multiple stylus in one job. But for these cycles that we currently have, which is the single point on the Z or face or 2-point ID or OD, here we just showed these styles, but you can use any other can be actually selected. We are taking into account orientation, so those are now supported. Crazy, also nice options in the MCO. I like this ability that we can move according to the work offset coordinate system. Very needed. It's more like operator-friendly way to give movements on the machine, just to not make confusion. You know, previously you were actually able to make a movements based on the coordinate system on the part. But you know, the coordinate system on the part, the mech itself, let's take an example of like Z-axis, right? So, or the X-axis, especially the X-axis, especially for the cutoff. This axis doesn't represent, you know, really the X-axis over on your machine. You may have upper turret, you may have a lower turret. So what is the mech, you know, X orientation, you know, on the part? So in that case, we take into account the submachine coordinate system itself. So now you can just double click on this mode, so you can get two different modes. So the old one, the part mode, and you also can have the work offset mode. Just simply write the value as you would do it as an operator and enjoy. Basically, pre-orientation of the spindles are not necessary anymore. In the setup sheet, nice updates. Anything that you see in the channel synchronization, we can now export. So it looks like this. Almost look one-to-one to the one in the application. We also can capture a custom view for the tools. So any tool, just open your tool viewer. And if you like to, you know, specific holder and the tool you would like to take under a certain angle or zoom or location, just orientate it, and you have right-click option, capture view here. You'll see it. And once you capture it, actually nothing happens. Everything is behind the scenes. You just export your setup sheet and it will come with this orientation. Another, like supporting any data that is inside the toolkit for the tools, like we added manufacturer, also got a number. We can also include that into a setup sheet. Additionally, also for the pictures, we can support any pictures export, also like including the pictures, but also the complete structure can be inside. And also not only, but any, you know, information about each of the components inside that picture assembly, it can be also exported as well. Let's go over multi-axis machining. Couple of them. Again, I mentioned that this is not a full release of the PowerPoint. You will get the full release after this webinar. But I want to talk about this couple of them that I really personally like. Many times it happened to me when I was on a machine that I do get some retract and rewinds. So in such a case, in many cases it was fine. Now you get an option to completely affect on the way how you would like to retract, how much you would like to retract, control lead in, lead out, also the feed inside. Now you have this option here, retract and rivet. Additionally, stock definition, no need in Pro 3D HSR, HSM, Auto 3+2, rotary machining, and multi-axis machining. Now you don't need to define anymore, you know, the stock on the surfaces, but you can just pick up the model, update the stock, done. No need to do that manually anymore. Multi-axis machining, define the tilt limits, no limits here, define the limits. It's very nice, ensures that the tool remains within the safe tilting limits, and we can avoid unnecessary movements or potential machine kinematic issues. We also have now ability to define how the sorting is done on the specific in the specific job, where we can start and control how we would like to start from the top or from the bottom. You will see the results are different and very much needed indeed. We start to support taper and lollipop tool in wall and floor strategies. Very important. Give you more flexibility to use more tool types and do, for the finishing. Also, the contact point for the using when you use the barrel tools. Now we have these 4 modes now, like the automatic one, which will, define it based on your selected geometry, it automatically. But you can force him to use others, like only the barrel tip, so the complete the barrel side and also the tip itself. Only the barrel, this radius that it has over here, or only the tip. As we have it also in the HSM, now we also can do in rotary, geodesic, and multi-axis milling technologies. We can now select. We can define the boundaries, the boundaries by selecting the surface, pick up the surface, and the boundary will be created. Very easy, very nice and convenient. Some lead in and lead out options in the rotary milling for roughing. You can ensure much smoother entrance, especially to the open contours. Very nice option. And also, when you have a rotary milling for finishing, very needed. Not many times happen, over here when you're having that, you will still remain some material or, or stock left, yes. And now you have an option to just ensure that there is an overlap. So you can define that in value, percentage of the tool diameter, or the radius itself. Very nice. Cut order, when you want to do in geodesic milling, do you want to do this, additional cut, at the very beginning of the job or at the end when everything is finalized? We also have in the multi-blade start to support an end mill. So we were able to do the bullnose mill and taper mill, but for many years, I know that end mill was one of the highest requested tool also to be supported. Why not in the multi-blade machining? Now you finally get it, it's there. Now, let me introduce you to something completely new. SolidCAM Core. What it is? Did you heard about it before? No? It's the best entry level SolidCAM package solution. So it's very nice. It includes the SolidWorks part only, and it gives you a full SolidCAM upgrade path. I'm going to talk more about it. So it does include 2.5D milling, 3D milling, 4 and 5 axis intaxial, also HSS, HSM, but of course limited. It is the cheapest product in our portfolio, and it does include the face, profile, pocket, drilling, thread milling, engraving from 2.5D, everything what you need. HSS, parallel cuts, HSM, all of these technologies, with the limits to the features like whole visual recognition, templates, machining process. So HSM, of course, in this angle range, adaptive step down, it does not include all of these features. And of course, please pay attention, it's HSM, not the Pro 3 HSM. This is not included. So it comes, as I said, with the SolidWorks part only. Very nice, very good for the starters. If you are considering ever, like you are starting, you are maybe starting the workshop, right? So if you want to And if you have an appetite that you will soon go to 5-axis, simultaneous, maybe buying some late Swiss type, you want to choose right CAM solution. So if you want to do that, this is a perfect starting pack, entry-level package for you, because when you have the core, and whenever you define any of your projects inside the core, you can easily go natively to a full SolidCAM with any of the modules that SolidCAM has. With traditional iMachining, also any milling technology, 3-axis and 5-axis, milling, wheel turn, Swiss type, wire EDM. SolidCAM Chatbot. We do have, improvements and changes over here as well. You probably heard about Chatbot. I'm using it on a daily basis. Helps me a lot. It's very specialized in SolidCAM. You can just use it. You can ask him anything about SolidCAM. I like it very, very much. You can, he will also look inside of whole SolidCAM library, where you can find such a, where he found such a resources. He will also suggest you the PDFs, also the webinar where we're explicitly talking about that, what you actually asked. You can ask him about feeds and speeds, everything related. So what it is, it provides you complete virtual assistant. So basically for the SolidCAM users, 24-hour support. It is integrated, designed to empower actually the technical, sales staff, resellers, and customers. There is, I want to mention one thing, of course, it cuts the response time from hours to seconds. Of course, all benefits of the AI, of course, we can today feel it very, very much on our daily basis. But what I like about it is that, in the interface of the chatbot, you do have like the like button and dislike button. It's still always like, you can ask the question that on which, maybe the chatbot doesn't have actually a good feedback. Sometimes it happens. Like if you asking something very specifically, you can actually give a dislike button. Don't worry. This dislike button give us a signal that we can improve this answer, and we will upgrade it, eventually. So all of these likes and dislikes, it's not just like that there, but feel free to use it, because we are constantly working on improvements over here, that every specific issue that maybe not your colleague knows, but Chatbot probably knows. If we ever found some very often happens in support channel that we do have a specific issue in any of the modules or very specific question, we are going to put that knowledge there inside. So what I want to mention here, the upgrade in 2025 SP4, that now you don't actually need to leave environment of SolidCAM. So you just go to the task pane, log in there, you're not leaving anything. So it looks like that. As you can see here on the right, you can just write him any message, it is there. Perfect. I like this one very much. So you can focus, in your best CAD and enjoy it. And about CAM Assist, I think one of the highlights of this webinar is the CAM Assist. What it is, I will just talk now in general. Okay, the most important points of the CAM Assist integration. So definitely, it's integrated inside the SolidCAM and provide AI assistant in generation of operation and strategies. Okay, all your tools that are in the part toolkit, it will be taken into account and recognized. We are going to use the tools. We'll also use the tools according to the area that needs to be machined. It will also use the smaller tools to machine the small corners. All setups you have created for your SolidCAM part are automatically recognized and used in CAM Assist. Takes automatically into account the fixture avoidance. extremely important. And the most important that you need to know that SolidCAM customers must have to run the CAM Assist, 2.5D milling, iMachining 3D, HSS, and Pro 3 HSM. We are going to have a dedicated webinar about CAM Assist already next week. It is important that you see more about this integration, in that webinar, because we are going to go through all the examples, through all the questions, specifically there. Over here, I'm just giving you the main bullet points. But it is important to know what is required, you to have and run CAM Assist. So it is important to have the SolidCAM security bit, so the license also from SolidCAM side, but also from Cloud NC CAM Assist, you need a license as well. And the best way is to buy it from your reseller, local reseller, to give you a best support. And finally, for this webinar, I want just to leave this last slide. What we are, why this is the best version, why you need this version. So for all of you who don't have this version, I want to put a special remark on this, that SolidCAM today is the top CAM that every CNC manufacturer needs. It has and offers also the Solid Shop for management that any of you needs. As you can see, we are staying in track with all AI. We are trying to integrate, the best technologies that can provide you amazing assistance from AI. And also, we are providing you the best technical and post-processor support for any CNC machine. I'd like to now give words to CEO of SolidCAM, Emil Somek. Emil, are you here?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Okay, so you have seen this amazing webinar by Danijel Đurica. He definitely knows every corner of the system, and as VP of Product Development, he's involved in making it always the best. But in the end, we want this to reach our customers, because we want our customers to benefit from all these new technologies you have seen here in this version. This version has gone through a whole track from SP0 to SP4 with improvement from one service pack to another. And I would say now it has reached the top, this version. So now, really, it's your task to try to convince every customer you have to be on subscription so that you can get this amazing new version. And obviously also, if he wants to use CAM Assist or automated CAM programming as part of his routine, he needs to have this version. So I hope you'll be able to convince maximum of your customers to move to the latest version. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.